program showcasing the people and organizations shaping Orange County. With your host, Don Camber.
Hello, live from the OC Talk Radio studios at UCI's Beal Applied Innovation Center. I'm OC Talk Radio Public Affairs Director Don Camber with another great guest impacting our community in a positive way. Today I welcome WISEPlace Chief Executive Officer Brateil Aghasi. WISEPlace is leading the effort to end homelessness for unaccompanied Orange County women. Last year, WISEPlace was chosen as California's Nonprofit of the Year by Assemblyman Tom Daley. Thank you, Brateil, for being on Impact OC.
Thank you, John. I'm excited to be here.
Brateil, please share with us the circumstances behind the women you serve.
You know, no two journeys are the same, but at WISEPlace, we're so proud to be the only nonprofit that solely focuses on the unmet needs of unaccompanied women. And unaccompanied women is just kind of our way of saying women who lack the support system of a significant other or children. And so unaccompanied women are especially vulnerable because essentially they're alone and they lack the support system of a significant other or children.
How do they come to you?
Women are referred in all sorts of ways. We will get referrals from other local nonprofits, where women don't want to go to, say, a co-ed shelter because of past trauma or being survivors of domestic violence. They'd rather go to a shelter that is kind of an all-female environment. So other nonprofits, we will get referrals from churches, the police department, hospitals, word of mouth, 211. So, you know, lots of ways, street outreach as well.
So what are the demographics of the people that you serve?
We serve adult unaccompanied women, so we'll serve 18. We've had a woman 4 years ago when I first started at WISEPlace. We had a woman who was 92 years old and in our shelter, and she really broke my heart to be 92, and she was trying to live in her car before she came to WISEPlace. So last year, I think our most senior participant was about 87 years old. So 18 to about 90. And then we serve a very high percentage of survivors of domestic violence. Last year was almost 70% of the women we served were survivors of domestic violence.
Explain the name.
The name WISEPlace? WISEPlace is an acronym for Women Inspired, Supported, Empowered.
So you have a shelter for them?
We do. So we have been in the same building since the 1950s. So we have a shelter that's almost 40,000 square feet in Santa Ana, in the heart of Santa Ana, but we serve the whole county. And then we have a few homes sprinkled throughout Orange County where once a woman is in our shelter, you know, some women can transition into their own permanent housing in 90 days, but some women, it takes longer. It can take 6 to 9 months. We have a woman in our shelter right now where she really needs a lot of support, mental health support, physical support. So she's been in our shelter for over 2.5 years.
So take us through what's it like for a woman to go through your program to become self-sufficient.
Sure. You know, I think most people are surprised to hear about the first 48 hours. So when a woman arrives to WISEPlace, I'm often asked, you know, what happens? And what I share with people is sleep, the safety and the comfort of knowing that you are safe, that you are not sleeping on the streets, that you are not sleeping in your car, that you are not worried about being assaulted. So usually what we see happen for the first 2-3 days is the woman for the first time in a very long time feels the safety to just sleep. And then obviously basic needs. So we have all types of undergarments, jeans, t-shirts. Oftentimes women, truly they're fearing for their life. And so they're coming to our shelter for safety. So we provide all the basic needs, obviously warm meals. We provide tens of thousands of meals on an annual basis, showering. And then a woman is paired with a case manager. So it's somebody who really cares about you, who meets you where you are and walks alongside you, helps you connect you to clinical counseling if that's something that you would like to partake in, to heal with the trauma of abuse, even the trauma of living on the streets and being homeless. And then, the women at the shelter start to work with the case manager to really start to begin again, rebuild their lives. We don't set goals for participants. The women set their own goals. They know what's best for them. What is a goal? So, for example, Dawn, if employment is a goal, we will start to build. We will start to prep, interview and work wardrobing, financial literacy classes, budgeting, resumes, to get everybody kind of ready to job search. Job search is difficult. It's really difficult to job search. So we make sure that, you're going to hear some no's before you get the right job, before you find the right fit. So we'll keep up the ladies' confidence level, keep practicing with them, and then help them kind of navigate any bureaucracy. So if someone is lacking, say, insurance, helping them to get linked up with insurance or benefits for the senior women that we serve. The example of Lady T, the 92-year-old. Obviously, we're not trying to get Lady T a job at 92. We're wanting to help Lady T be proactive in her health care so that she's not reliant on, say, emergency rooms. So with Lady T and some of our seniors, we help make sure that if they're living with mental illness, that they have access to counseling, that they are safe, and that we have kind of a proactive approach to their physical and mental health.
At what point do you see them? Is it where they had just become out of a divorce situation and they're alone? Were they abused? At what point?
It's really all situations because, no two women are the same. But for the large majority of our survivors of domestic violence, we usually see them on, maybe it's the first time that they've tried to leave an abuser, or maybe it's the second or third time they've tried to leave an abuser, after oftentimes women are living in their car, which is very, very unsafe. For our senior women and those that have experienced homelessness for several years, it's often after living on the streets for several years.
And how are you able to get access to them to help them?
So there's strategic partnerships all throughout the county. So at WISEPlace, we are one of many nonprofit homeless service providers, and we work really strategically with each other. So our team does not necessarily go out into the community. We are kind of waiting at the shelter. And so CityNet is a great street outreach nonprofit, for example, and their teams will go out into the community, try to build a relationship with those experiencing homelessness that are on the streets. And then once they build a relationship, they're able to kind of give us a warm handoff.
And what's it like for them? I mean, it must be tough to reach out to you.
It's incredibly tough. It's incredibly tough because you don't know what you'll experience, right? And so we try to be what we refer to as trauma informed. We try to be very understanding, very trauma informed, and very flexible to really meet someone where they are and ask them what their goals are and work alongside with them.
And how long will they be with you?
It can really vary. Right now with COVID and just the rising rental markets, and there's not a lot of availability. So it is really tough to end homelessness right now. So it is taking a bit longer. We're on average right now, we're sitting at about 9 months, where someone will be in our shelter on average for about 9 months before we're able to increase their income, have a proactive approach to mental and physical health, and help them transition into their own room for rent or their own senior assisted living or their own home, no longer our shelter.
So you provide employment assistance.
We do.
Explain that.
So for women whose goals is employment, obviously employment is such a big part of self-sufficiency and not just getting but maintaining housing. So we have a computer lab on site, and we have strategic partnerships with the one-stop centers, with the Santa Ana Workforce, with other nonprofits along with our team, we host weekly workshops. We'll do resume coaching, creating resumes, doing job coaching, helping find job leads. Also, when somebody gets a job, oftentimes people think, okay, I got the job, the hard work is done, but really the hard work begins, right? So you got a job and now you get to keep your job, right? Or you get to maybe look for another job, or if you're part-time hired in, you get to maybe find an opportunity for full-time employment with benefits. So we will support through that whole process.
What about funding?
Funding for our organization? Yeah, we have not found the magic money tree, but we have really grown at WISEPlace. We have been, about 4 years ago in 2017, we were really struggling financially. I was brought in 2018, and since 2018 till now, thanks to the community really stepping up and really understanding that at WISEPlace, we're really on the front lines of ending homelessness, keeping our community safe, especially during COVID, that the community has really embraced us, and our funding support has increased, and that means that we're able to serve more people. In 2017, before my arrival, WISEPlace was serving about 20 people at one time and maybe 100 women a year. And for several years, we were serving almost 400 women now. So we're really able to triple. But, quality programs do take money, so funding is incredibly important.
Staffing, is it paid staff and volunteers or a combination?
It is a combination. We have the best volunteers. I feel so fortunate. We have grown our volunteer programs. Last year we had over 700 volunteers, even through the pandemic, supporting almost over 14,000 hours of volunteer support. We would be nothing without our volunteers. We joke at WISEPlace that we are lean and mean. It's myself, and then we only have, we're 7 full-time staff members, and we run a 24/7 hour operation. So we're there at 2 in the morning, 4 in the morning, Christmas Day, Saturday, Sunday. So 7 full-time staff members to run 7 days a week, 365 days. It's a lot leaner than I would like, but we are growing strategically, and we're able to sustain our growth.
What are some of the things the volunteers do?
Oh gosh, what don't they do is probably a better question. Everything we beg our volunteers to ask. Volunteers have been really critical, especially the last 2 or 3 years, in helping provide meals, because when our shelter is at full occupancy, we're providing almost 70,000 meals a year, and if you want to provide a warm, nutritious meal, that costs a lot of money. So what we ask the community and our volunteers is, can you provide a meal? Can you sponsor a meal? So it's only $5 a meal. And so $25 sponsors 5 lunches, let's say. And so volunteers have really stepped up in the meal sponsorship, help with admin, because we don't have a big admin team. We've kind of focused all of our staffing efforts on programs. We have a summer bash coming up. We like to celebrate the holidays, and so we have Memorial Day, Labor Day, 4th of July coming up. So the volunteers will sponsor a barbecue, and they'll come on site, and we'll stay safely outside, and the volunteers will barbecue, create summer essentials for the ladies, like flip-flops, shorts, sunscreen, chapstick, the thing that probably you and I take for granted and we assume that everybody has, but not everybody has summer essentials.
But these are unaccompanied women. Do they reach out to the families of these women at all?
The family dynamics are really complicated and oftentimes heartbreaking. I'm thinking about a woman that comes to mind, and she has a son, and he's an adult son, and he's very successful, but he has 2 little kids, and he found his mom, and she was in her shelter, and mom went to live with the son and the grandchildren. And, unfortunately, they weren't able to maintain that after about 3 or 4 weeks, because the woman has dual diagnosis. She's bipolar and schizophrenic. And so it was affecting his family, and it was affecting his grandchildren. This is a good, kind woman, but she needs help, and she's living with mental illness. And so that's some of the hardships. I think a lot of people place judgment that where are these people's families? Why doesn't the family help? And, what I have seen firsthand is that these stories are very complicated. And, we never know what we would do in that situation.
Well, speaking of stories, can you briefly tell us what it was like for one individual to go through the program and then have a positive outcome?
Sure. I'm thinking about Annie Parks because I just this morning wrote a letter of recommendation for her. She's going through an entrepreneurial program. Annie Parks came to us in her late 50s. Annie Parks was an educator. She worked as a teacher. She had a pension. But Annie Parks, for almost 3 or 4 decades, was in an abusive marriage. And it was actually her husband that kind of one day she came home and he had locked her out of the home. But so she was living in her car for a year off and on in very, very unsafe situations before she came to WISEPlace. And she was able to go to counseling for the first time in her life. And she was able to unpack her trauma from being in a 3 decades long abusive marriage. And she finally, felt worthy for the first time in her life. As an almost 60-year-old woman, she tells us that she felt worthy because she had just been so kind of beat up, literally and figuratively, that she did not feel worthy to not be in an abusive relationship. So she went through counseling, she went through job training, she budgeting, and she was in our shelter for a little over a year. And about a year ago, she has been in her own apartment. She was reunited with her son because her son did not want to see his mom being abused. And so they had kind of had a falling out, but they are now reunited. They have a very, very loving and supportive relationship. And she's doing great. She is a part-time employee. She is a really great writer. She now is an alumni of our program, and she comes back and she gives back to the other women to instill hope, to let them know that, yes, you have been through just an immense amount of pain, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. And so she helps bring hope to our shelter.
How can people reach out to your organization if they want to help or if they need help?
Yeah, so wiseplace.org is probably the easiest way to reach out. And if you need help there, please definitely reach out and we will call and help assess the situation. And if we don't have the adequate resources, we will definitely link you to other organizations that do. But please don't hesitate to reach out if you need help. We are here for you. And for the volunteer and donor community, we would love to give you a tour. We would love to hear from you. We have a bold goal to building our first supportive housing project. And we hope to break ground in about a year. So we would love to continue to tell the community about that.
So people shouldn't feel uncomfortable to reach out if they need help.
I certainly hope that we provide an environment where people do feel comfortable to reach out.
And if people want to help, what do you recommend they do in terms of being able to handle people with different situations?
Yeah, well, we have, an orientation where we really kind of educate folks on kind of what we do and how we do it. And then we have, a volunteer manager that will help place you in the right volunteer opportunity. And just as we are with the women that we serve, we're right there by our volunteer side as well. We wouldn't place you untrained or unprepared in any volunteer opportunity. And some of the best ways to start is to maybe come and play. We have bingo nights most Fridays, something that is kind of a little bit easier to first, be at the shelter, make sure it's a good fit for you. And then we could kind of grow the volunteer opportunity. But it's great for faith-based groups. It's great for sororities. We have youth and children volunteer at our shelter all the time, too. They help provide meals and serve meals. We do a lot of workshops. So we do meditation, we do yoga. So if anybody has a talent, you can come share it with WISEPlace. We have a book club. So there's lots of really great ways to get involved.
And I can tell that you've seen a lot of transformations.
I really have. It has been the most challenging job of my career in the nonprofit, but it has by far been the most rewarding.
Thank you, WISEPlace Chief Executive Officer Brateil Aghasi, for being on Impact OC. And I thank everyone for tuning in. I'm OC Talk Radio Public Affairs Director Dawn Camber. Have an impactful day.
You've been listening to Impact OC, the only program showcasing the people and organizations shaping our community. Right here on Orange County's only community radio station, OC Talk Radio.